What's up, everybody? My name is Joy Moya. I'm going to share with you an artistic testimony of memories that have helped to define what I observe as beauty marks. I have divided these reflections into 13 chapters. Let's begin with strongholds and strong women. Meet the mother of my mother, Mrs. Christine Alice Thomas. This is a photo of her in her church white. This is one of the last photos she ever took. All right, so this is my mother's mother. She bore 13 children in total. Let's see. My mom was the firstborn girl. She has a brother who is older than her by a couple of years. But anyway, so I used to go and stay with my grandmother for the summer. My mom told me that she sent me to Mississippi to live with my grandmother when I was about 6 months old, until she could get on her feet and find a job and get stable. So she sent me to live with my grandmother. I think she sent my brother as well. But I remember coming back home when I was around maybe 3 or 4 years old. And I spoke about this in my book, Pretty in the Paint. I think that's the title. Yeah, that's the title. So I remember coming, riding the Greyhound with my brother, and we met my mother at Greyhound bus station, Chicago. And as we were coming down the escalator, my mom was walking up to the escalator, and she was just so jovial. She was very happy. She had a very, very good spirit. She was excited and just very bright. I remember her having on a purple two-piece jogging suit. Now, this was back in the 80s, the early 80s, so you can imagine what those look like. But anyway, I did not recognize her. I did not know who she was. My brother had to tell me, "There's mama. There's our mama. Do you see her?" And I could not point her out in the crowd. Again, I was just about maybe 3 or 4 years old, returning home, and she was getting us back after, getting on her feet. So this is my grandmother. Now, the only thing that my mom ever said bad about my grandmother is that she allowed the exterminators to come and exterminate while I was maybe 3 months old. And my mom was afraid that the chemicals would affect me in some type of way. So they had a huge blowout or argument about that. That's the only thing she ever said about her. That was as far as them being at odds or having a disagreement. I don't know what my mother's raising was like. I don't know their relationship. The only thing that I ever saw as far as their relationship is that they were always excited to see each other. Always excited to see each other. They were always excited to cook for each other. Outside of that, I don't recall my mom ever saying that there were any extreme beatings or whippings. She did say that the whippings came from her father, though, for going to school, getting up and going to school every day. But as far as my grandmother is concerned, no other information. Now, as far as my recollection with her, She was my introduction to the Switch. Yes, that was my first time ever in life being whipped with a switch, a piece of thin branch that she pulled, that she cut off from a bush, and honey, that was my first time ever experiencing being whipped with a switch. I didn't even know what it was. But she was also Sunday dinner. My very first experience with Sunday dinner. It was always fried chicken and white rice, biscuits. It was always beans or pork chops. She was Sunday dinner. She was my first introduction to banana pudding. I knew nothing about banana pudding until she made it, and I had some of it. It was one of the last meals that I ever ate, that she made. She was a babysitter. All of my aunts dropped the kids off to my grandma, and she would watch them. She was an avid fan of soap operas, General Hospital, Young and the Restless. There were a couple of others, but she definitely enjoyed her programming. She definitely enjoyed cable. She was my first experience with movie nights. It would definitely be a Friday or Saturday, and after a certain time, around 7, a little after 7, maybe around 9, between 7 and 9, we'd start getting ready to watch a movie. And all of the cousins would find a spot, everybody would find a spot, and we'd watch a couple of movies. Horror movies were her favorite. She liked scary movies. I think it was Friday the 13th. That she liked, and she loved action movies as well. I remember her working in the cotton fields when I would be there for the summer. She would get up, a couple of uncles, aunts, and a couple of older cousins would get up and go to the field, and they would chop the weeds. They wouldn't chop cotton. They called it chopping cotton, but I think it was more so chopping the weeds. When I got old enough to go, I chopped weeds. I didn't chop cotton. So I remember her getting up 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and just putting on long sleeves, layers, and she would tie her hair up. Everybody's hair would be tied, and they would come back so dirty. I remember them coming back dirty, that before they came in the house, they would stomp. And that's how you knew that they were coming up the stairs, because they would stomp. You would hear them stumping the dirt and mud off of them, off of their shoes and off their clothes. She was the go-to person for everything, like to figure out anything, to know how to do anything. She was the solutions person. When there was a storm in Mississippi, when there was a storm, of course, there weren't a lot of trees around. So I think that it was tornadoes that would come through quite often. And whenever there was a storm, it really sounded scary as far as the thunder and the lightning. It was scary. But she would gather us all in the living room, and we would all just sit in the living room. The living room was combined with the dining room area, so it was enough space for all of the children, all of the grandchildren that wanted to come and wanted to be there. And we just sat in the living room and we just talked. And, well, I didn't talk, but everybody else did. I just looked and listened. But what my aunts and uncles would do would what is called jank each other. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that term, jank, whereas they would talk about each other for laughs. And because it was among family, I guess it was okay, but there were some times where it went too far, and a couple of people got in their feelings and it went left. But for the most part, grandmama didn't take no stuff. She was a tough lady. I think as far as my relationship with her, I think she was just tired of seeing children. I think she was, all loved and caregiving out. Or I probably wasn't one of the favorites. I don't know. But I think that she was probably just trying to sustain herself, being a mother of 13 and then countless grandkids. I couldn't even begin to count how many grandkids there are. And then, so I don't know how to explain. Like, I didn't get that grandmotherly love, but there was care, because she made sure that I had what I needed. She made sure that I was fed. She made sure that I was safe. I can say that much. But as far as her relationship with my mom, they just was so excited all the time to see each other and enjoy each other's cooking. And that's what I remember about my grandmother. All right, so this is a photo of my mother, Dora. She was between 7 and 9 months pregnant with me on this photo. I believe she was 9 months because she was close to her due date. But yeah, this is a photo of her when she was pregnant with me. And this is a photo of me looking like her when she was pregnant with me. But anyway, so my mom was really upset that she was pregnant again and could not get rid of me. She did not want another child. When I came, she told me about the time that she went into labor and she was on her way to the hospital and she passed by a fruit truck and she saw Peaches, and she said that she should have nicknamed me Peaches, but she didn't because of how bad she really wanted one of those peaches. But she was in labor and I guess she understood that she couldn't eat anything. But anyway, my nickname was almost Peaches. There you have it. She was very abusive. I've mentioned that in previous videos, in previous testimonies, in previous areas throughout my social media. She was abusive, and I had forgot how abusive she was. She was abusive. She was an alcoholic, and she also was a drug addict. Now, the hard drugs didn't come until I graduated high school, or until I was on my way out of high school. That's when she started doing the heavier drugs. She did mention to me that she tried cocaine, but she said she didn't like it and she never used it again. But the hard liquor and beer was her preference, was her choice. It was easily accessible. So that was her go-to for relief of the pressure and the demands of this world, of taking care of children as a single mother without any child support or without any help. My mother raised 2 children without child support and without help. I don't recall her ever being on government assistance. I don't recall that. I don't recall us ever getting food stamps. I recall there were days and times where we ate pig ears and white rice, chitlins. Let me just put this out here. I've never eaten chitlins. I couldn't get over the smell. I did help her clean them, so I know how to clean them, but I just couldn't get over the smell, and I never ate them. So yeah, I wanted to kind of insert that she was abusive until I was about maybe 15 or 16 years old, and I started to fight back the abuse. It was the one last time that she decided to, I guess, try to whoop me or discipline me. She raised the pan and I knocked the pan down. It was a black skillet, almost like a cast iron pan she wanted to hit me with, and I just knocked that down, and I started to fight back at that point. And I think from that point on, she and I began to try and have a relationship and try to go at things a different way. At that point, she started to try a different method in raising me or communicating with me or disciplining me. But in the beginning, there was everything. She would get mad for whatever reason and she would take it out on me. It was verbal abuse. It was physical abuse. It was toys. It was brooms. It was extension cords, skates, whatever she could get her hands on, her shoe, whatever she could get her hands on, she used. Yeah, and whenever she got angry, and she had been drinking, and I don't know if I said anything or did anything, but it was real bad. So yeah, that was that. And then, like I said, at some point when I turned maybe 16 or 17, things changed. We figured out how to be around each other and operate with each other. I don't know. I'm gonna stop here for a minute. Okay, so I want to put this out here. I am in no way, shape, form, or fashion trying to talk about, belittle, or disgrace, or say anything bad about my mother. This is the truth, and I hope that this helps someone. I hope that this brings some form of enlightenment. I hope that this frees someone else who may be experiencing some of the same issues. I hope that a single mother out there will see this or hear this and decide to try and do the self-help that is necessary to have patience, to have understanding, and to simply seek God in trying to understand how to do the thing of being a single parent raising children without help. Because I don't think my mother really understood how much God had her back. So I just want to put that out there, and I'm going to go ahead and proceed. So I'll move on to the next photo. And this is a photo of my mother and just my mom, when she went on my high school luncheon. I invited her to my high school luncheon as well as my high school prom. So, again, after about 16 or 17, she and I began to work on our relationship. We began to have some type of understanding about each other. And we were just able to tolerate each other at some point. So this is her in her African suit on my high school luncheon. She and I both wore orange. I wore orange and white, and she had on the orange and black. So there were times where we were all smiles. She, I guess, began to get a little help in life because I got a job and my brother was gone. So she started to get a little bit of help as far as paying the bills, as far as, keeping the house in order. And I think she began to get a little bit more confidence in the fact that maybe I had a little bit more sense than I did when I was like in adolescence. And again, this was around maybe 16, 17, 18 during that time. My mother never made it to any of my sports games, never made it to any of the shows that I performed in school. She was at work. I don't know if she was able to take off work or thought to take off work or just wanted to save the days that she was able to take off work for emergencies. But I played volleyball, softball, ran track, and I performed in arts theater, and she never made one game or one show. I remember going to her job often after school to pick up money for food or just, what have you, just to stop by. I remember going to her job for Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. So I got a chance to see her at work. She could type 84 words per minute. She knew how to write shorthand. She worked as a secretary, and she worked in the continuing education department at Malcolm X College, whereas she would type up the guidebook that displayed the classes, the dates, and the time and information. She compiled the whole book, so she knew how to format and type that up. So that's what I remember about her as far as the job is concerned. I remember her stopping by the drug dealer's house after work to pick up her nickel bag. And this would be like on payday. So this is the photo of her and I when I first decided to become a stripper. Yes, your favorite auntie was a exotic dancer. I won't say stripper because you could not find me in a club on a regular. So she and I went out this night. We went to this big extravaganza, as far as it was called a lockdown for male strippers. And for those of you out there who remember those times, honey, I am not ashamed about those bones in my closet. Okay, so this is her and I out. And this is when she first got on drugs, and I was the one who had to deal with it. Now, I want to tell a story about when I first found out that she was on drugs, like really heavily, I don't recall who told me, but the word was getting out. I had already left home. She put me out at 19. We had a very huge fight. The fight was so bad. It was so huge. It was so bad that I threw a candy dish at her and it broke. And she said that glass went in her eye. I don't know, but I saw her cry. And when I saw her cry, at that point, I was like, I can't do it anymore. It's not healthy. It's not working. So I left home. And she was like, get out. But she wasn't putting me out. But I got out and I completely left. So this was the age of 19. And I stayed with a friend for about, my friend says that it was about 4 months. I thought it was just 1 month. She said it was about 4. But anyway, I got my own apartment. I was making enough money dancing to get a roommate and get my own apartment. And I became a roommate with one of my high school classmates. That didn't work out. I think it lasted for all of maybe 6 months to a year. We couldn't figure out how to even the books. Like, there were times when I was paying more and she understood a way to pay less, and I guess I hadn't figured it out yet, and it just didn't work. Okay, I'll leave it there. But at this night, I guess after her seeing all of those men and women just throwing money at the men, and she was like, oh, I just need to get up out of here. If these people are just throwing money and it's free money and I could be, doing woo wop the band with this money. And she left. She left early. She got her coat and she left. So, yeah, she and I tried to do the going out thing together. I want to add that my mom has a lot of siblings, and if I can remember the count, it's 7 sisters and 5 brothers. And you have to remember that because my mom had a big family, with her moving to Chicago without many friends and without a lot of family. She does have a sister in Chicago, but without a lot of friends and without a lot of family, that took a hit on her social life. Now, I do recall that there were times when she would go out. I recall her having a birthday party when she was about 36 years old, and she made all of this food. There was just so much food, and she said that no one showed up. No one showed up, but she had a good time, but no one showed up. So she partied by herself. So again, this is one of the first photos of me as Reason. So, I know a lot of you may be wondering, like, how did I get into dancing? Well, it's not because my brother was a dancer. That's not it. I think it's something that I wanted to do as far as, build confidence for myself, because I had been through so much as an adolescent, being bullied as a kid, being abused by my mother, the absent father, dealing with family that, really didn't have the time or attention or the wherewithal to even understand that I needed the attention. I was just another kid that was in the family that was around. So my mother's only expectation of me was to graduate high school. So once I graduated high school, there was this whole thing of, okay, well, what are you going to do? And what's next. Now, of course, I met with school counselors who tried to get me to go away to college, to try to get me a volleyball scholarship because I played volleyball really well, I guess. I don't know. But there were people trying to get me to go off to college. And for some reason, I didn't want to go off to college. I think that had I went on the senior trips where they went to the different college universities and they went around the different campuses, I think I probably would have had more of an interest of it then. But my mom worked at Malcolm X College, and she said that it would make no sense for me to go off to college when I could get a discount on the community college. So she wanted me to stay home and she wanted me to go to a community college. And then it was like, okay, well, what will she study? What will she major in? And for some reason, there were a few people who said that I should major in early childhood development. I was okay with that because I liked kids. But as you can see, things didn't work out that way. I took a few classes in early childhood development, but my degree is in business management, and I did also get a cosmetology license. So my mom, when she found out that I was a dancer, she didn't freak out. She didn't have too much to say. She did see a couple of the shows, and I did some things that she wasn't proud of. So there may have been some, back and forth or communication among the family that I wasn't aware of. I'm pretty sure she discussed my actions with her sisters and I wasn't aware of it. I'm sure they formed an opinion about me that they did not make me aware of. But I made so much money, and that money helped pay bills, and that money helped put food on the table, because at that point, she was suffering from depression very badly. She had just about tapped out at that point. She could no longer work. She could no longer work, so that money was helping with a lot. And this was before she was classified as disabled. Now, let's see. Also, this was during the time when she began to get heavily on drugs. So after the prom, that's when she was introduced to the heavier drugs. She would only smoke marijuana for as long as I could remember, until after prom. After she and I went to prom, she went out with one of my classmates' uncle or someone in their family, and somehow that particular area is how she was introduced to the heavier drugs. And then at some point she just removed the marijuana completely, and she just stuck with the hard stuff. Now, I want to insert here that my brother did say something or do something for her to actually stop at one point. And I don't know how long it was before she decided to go back into it again. But at some point she did stop. But her life was miserable. She couldn't handle it. So I think I said to her that I would prefer that you enjoy your life. You know what I mean? I think my brother and I both told her that we want you to enjoy your life. We want you to, enjoy your life and have a good life. So I guess what that was for her was partying. Now, I didn't stay an exotic dancer for too long. I think I lasted for about maybe 2 or 3 years before it all started to dwindle. I made a lot of money, and the money went by so fast. I didn't do anything with it, but it did pay bills. It did help me to sustain an apartment. And then I met someone in the industry as well, and I'm gonna stop there. All right, so this is a photo of my mother on a date with her ex-boyfriend. This is a significant photo because when she came home, she was just so happy and so overjoyed to meet his family. They had been invited to a wedding, and she was just so happy. This is the smile she had on her face, and she really, really enjoyed this relationship she had with this gentleman, and she thought that it was the one and they would go far. He and I didn't get along. I didn't say much to him. He didn't say much to me. They just had whatever they had. He didn't interact with me much. But when he came over to the house, he just took over. He took over the TV. He took over the food. She waited on him hand and foot. She fixed his food, brought it to him. She served him. I saw her be a wife to this man, even though they were not married. So whatever, whew, gosh, I don't know what happened between the two of them. She said, that they were drinking. She had gone over to his house for the weekend. That's something that she would do often. Go over to his place for the weekend, and he would stay at her place sometimes throughout the week. But she was over his house for the weekend, and she said that they had been drinking, and she may have said something that upset him, or he may have said something that upset her, and she went off. All I know is that they got into a huge fight, and she came home, and she was bruised. Her face was different colors. She had bruises. She had swelling. She couldn't open one eye. It was really bad. It was bad. So I remember when she came home, and she got out of the car. He dropped her off, and I was standing in front of my building, with classmates and kids around. And I didn't notice her when they were pulling up, but when she got out of the car, and she walked up towards the building, towards the door, and I just remember how the kids were just appalled, and they were just, kind of joking about, the way that her face looked. And she was kind of crying a little bit, you know what I mean? She was crying the best that she could, but her face was so swollen. And I think At some point, my brother came home and they went to file a police report or whatever, what have you. Now, this incident happened when I was in grammar school, so I may have been in about 7th or 8th grade at the time when this happened. Could have been maybe 6th or 7th grade, but it was definitely during the grammar school years that this took place. And I had to go to school the following day and deal with, the kids knowing that my mom had been a victim of domestic violence, and I didn't understand what that was or what that meant at the time. There was no information about it. There was just nothing. I knew nothing other than my mom came home with her face disfigured, purple and swollen and bruises all over, and nobody in the family really said anything to me that I recall. Now, as far as after the incident, she actually did go back. But I think there was someone in the family who told her that I was watching and that I was paying attention, and that I would probably think that it was okay to go back to a man that had done something like that. So she actually, ended it, and, they broke it off. I remember, him trying to contact her right after it happened to apologize or whatever and whatnot. But, I don't know. Did she go back or did she not go back? I don't think she went back. I think they may have, gotten into a fight before, and then she went back, and then it escalated and it got to this point, to whereas, she was bruised all over. I don't know. I'm trying to remember, because I do have some photos of her, and it was after her face had gone down and she only had a black eye, which is the black part under her eye, and she took some photos. So, and I think he may have been the one to actually take the photos. So maybe she did go back. I don't know. I can't really remember that part. But yeah, so I was a kid who had experienced that in my grammar school years. Now, as far as high school years, there was a time when I dated this guy, and I did experience domestic violence from him. I'm gonna stop right there and catch a breath. All right, so there were actually two guys that I dated, and they were violent. Not like every day or often, just one time. I only needed one time. And the irony of it all is the fact that they were drug dealers. They were street guys. They were drug dealers, right? And the irony of it is that my mom actually died from the same drugs or type of drugs that they sold. Well, no, because I don't think fentanyl was back in the day. But the fact that they were drug dealers and she died from drugs, I just find irony in that. So my mom did recover from the domestic, from all of the abuse, from all of those things. She did recover from it, and she was able to move on, and she was able to smile. And I think it had a lot to do with the fact that she had me to support her, to be honest. I made sure that she had food, she had the bills were paid, she had everything that she needed in the house. I made sure that she got laundry done. And I made sure that she was able to escape from her surroundings, just get into a different surrounding and environment, because by that point, I was married and I had a house. I had a home. So she would come over and she would help cook and clean, and just we would enjoy whatever time we had together. Now, it started off with only, being 2 days that, again, she and I could be around each other and she was ready to go. I think she was just really ready to get back home to just, enjoy her time by herself with whatever she, liked to do. And it stretched out even as far as like 5 days that she would stay with me. And we tolerated, well, we learned to enjoy each other's company within those 5 days. And I think it was because the house was big enough for us to have our own space without bothering each other. I think that, probably was it. And then she was able to go outside and talk with my neighbors. She enjoyed my one neighbor from across the street named Mary and her husband, Ed. So, yeah, I think I think that I'll stop here for a second. Okay, so this photo is a photo of my college graduation and cosmetology school graduation. So in the purple is the cosmetology school graduation. My mom did attend. She wasn't going to at first, but she decided to show up at the last minute. And in the black is the college graduation. I did not realize how much of a big deal this was, but we decided to get a hotel room close to where the graduation would be held and stay the weekend and celebrate and go swimming with her great grandchild. It was the only one she had at the time. And we just really enjoyed our stay, and we were close to the venue. So we had a great time. She had a great time. She didn't get in the pool, but she put on her bathing suit and took a photo and felt really sexy or pretty or whatever, what have you. But so the photo okay, so I graduated in the same year. The services took place in the same year, 2013. So the cosmetology graduation was first. That was in the beginning of 2013. I want to say maybe around February or March, somewhere around there. And then the college graduation. I graduated from the University of Phoenix, and that graduation took place in June of 2013. And on the day of my graduation, my dad had major surgery. Well, no, it wasn't the day of graduation. It was like a couple of days before graduation. Yeah, somewhere between there, a couple of days before the graduation. I would have to check the dates, but my dad ended up dying on my mom's birthday. And so that's why I don't look very happy in this photo with the black and the black cap and gown, because I got the phone call that my dad was found unresponsive, and they rushed him to the hospital, and he had to have surgery. And I was the one who had to make the decision as to whether he was going to have surgery or not. I was I'm gonna stop here for a minute. So after all that had happened during or throughout my adolescent years and teenage years, I did continue on to try and move beyond the expectations of what she had for me, and that was only to finish high school without having a baby. Now, there was a rumor when I was about maybe 12 or 13. I think it was about 13. I was just about to get ready and graduate grammar school, and someone in the community put a rumor out that I was pregnant, and it got back to my brother, and my brother told her what the rumor was, and she flipped out. She had a fit. She threw me to the floor and put her foot, or tried to put her foot on my stomach. She eventually did, but with me struggling, she put her foot on my neck and she put her foot on my face, and my face hit the end of my brother's weight, and it left a scar for a while. It's no longer there, or if it is, it's not as visible to the naked eye, but I had a scar there for a very long time. And she said that she was going to stump the baby out of me because I was not going to have a baby. And she slammed me down on the floor, and I think I'm just not gonna. So she finally got me down on the floor, and she, my clothes was ripped, and it was a struggle because I was fighting back, and but eventually, that wasn't true. It wasn't true. Now in this photo, I'm gonna stop here for a second. In this photo, you may notice that I look a little heavy on both photos, and this may have been because I was using IVF medication to get pregnant. There's a condition called polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS for short, whereas it causes infertility. So I decided to use IVF treatments to try and get pregnant, and it was successful and it was not successful, but I will talk more about that in the chapters to come, so stay tuned. I am going to conclude Strongholds and Strong Women at this point. I hope that I have provided a very, very detailed introduction to the foundation of who I am and why some of my why some of my experiences may have shown up in a certain way. So again, this testimony is not to cast a bad light on anyone. It's not to down anyone. Definitely not to put my mother in a bad light. If you notice by the photos, the latter photos, she and I began to have a great relationship, and we began to forgive each other. I definitely began to forgive her. And when she died from a drug overdose. And when she died, I had a fit. I was so angry with God because we were just reconciling our relationship. We were just strengthening our relationship. We were just, really learning each other and creating a mother-daughter bond, and I was just angry with God. I was just angry and I crashed out. So, for those of you young people out there who may see this and hear this, please do not crash out, okay? Definitely seek God for your understanding as to, just seek God, okay?